Welcome to Movies We Love. Today we will look at a crime drama entitled American History X. Spoilers ahead. Before we start, hit the like button. It's free and will help me to grow this channel. The film begins with Danny Vineyard awakening to the sound of a car being stolen. Danny goes to the bedroom of his older brother Derek to tell him that two men are breaking into his car out front. In a fury, Derek pulls out a pistol and heads downstairs. He charges out into the night and without hesitation guns down the two criminals before being arrested. Danny looks on in dismay. Derek is a Nazi skinhead with a swastika tattooed on his chest. Now, jump 3 years into the future. Danny receives an assignment from his history teacher, Mr. Murray, to write a paper on any book which relates to the struggle for human rights. Knowing it will anger his teacher, Danny writes his paper on Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf. Mr. Murray attempts to get Danny expelled for doing this, but the principal, Dr. Sweeney, refuses. Instead, informing Danny that he will study history and current events under him, and that the class will be called American History X. Danny's first assignment is to prepare a paper on his brother Derek, a former neo-Nazi leader. Next, we see bullying in the school bathroom. Several boys are ganging up on a lone kid. Danny appears from the stall and confronts the bullies. He blows smoke into one kid's face. They exchange heated words, but the bullies back down and leave. Danny tells the other boy to stand up for himself. A few years prior, Danny and Derek's father, a firefighter, was murdered by drug dealers. In a television interview conducted after his father's death, Derek erupts in a long racist tirade. Shortly thereafter, Cameron, Alexander, and Derek form a white supremacist gang called the DOC, or Disciples of Christ. Here, we see a flashback. Danny remembers his brother as a skilled basketball player. Derek joins into a 3-on-3 game against several gang members. The prize is control of the recreation center basketball courts. Both sides score against each other, and at one point Derek eats an intentional elbow to the mouth. In the end, Derek's team is victorious, and the Nazis take control of the basketball courts. The other players are ejected from the court. Next, we see the moment Derek returns home from prison. The family is so happy to see him. Danny shows him his white power tattoo, DOC, but Derek is not happy. In prison, something has changed him. He's no longer a racist skinhead. He tells his little brother to listen to Dr. Sweeney and to write whatever Sweeney tells him to. Danny is not happy, but he begins to write the paper, a paper all about Derek. As Danny writes, we see into his mind, into his memories of Derek. High-profile racist Cameron Alexander becomes Derek's mentor, and they form their own violent white supremacist gang called the DOC, Disciples of Christ. We see how Cameron Alexander uses Derek to spread Nazi ideas. Derek gives lowlifes and hooligans a sense of purpose and legitimizes gangsterism through a political cause. Derek leads his skinheads to attack a supermarket owned by Korean people that included African American and Latino workers. They run riot throughout the market, smashing and destroying. They beat the male workers and savage the female employees, pouring sauce in their mouths and over their faces. We see here the terror of Nazism. Danny continues to recount in his head the horrible night that Derek killed 2 people. That night, as Danny hears people attempting to steal Derek's truck, Derek shoots and kills one of the thieves. Danny watches in horror as Derek curb stomps one of the other youths in a racist rage. Derek is then arrested by the police and sentenced to 3 years in prison for voluntary manslaughter. You can see by the sick look in Derek's eyes, he has no remorse, no sympathy, only anger. He feels completely justified in his actions. Next, we see Danny and Derek attend a white supremacist party. We see a hardcore skinhead band playing live music. Everyone is socializing and partying. Danny is drinking beer from a keg. This party is sponsored by Cameron Alexander, the man behind the movement. Alexander is grooming Danny to be the next leader. Danny is very young and impressionable, and is an easy target for Cameron. Derek confronts Cameron and tells him he is no longer part of the Nazi club. Cameron is of course angry, but says it doesn't matter, because Danny will be the next one in line anyway. Derek loses his cool and strikes Cameron, beating him to the ground. The skinheads realize that Derek is no longer one of them, and Derek's friend Seth turns on him and pulls a gun. Derek disarms Seth and makes his escape from the gathering. Danny, visibly upset, catches up with Derek. Derek sits down with Danny and explains about his experience in prison and why he no longer buys into the neo-Nazi ideology. In prison, Derek was vulnerable. He needed to make friends fast. In the yard, he shows off his Nazi tattoos to attract like-minded prisoners. He is soon taken in by a white supremacist gang, the Aryan Brotherhood. He needs to be part of a gang for his own protection. Derek is given a job in the prison laundry and assigned to be the partner of Lamont, an African-American man who is serving 6 years for the assault of a police officer. At first, Derek won't even speak to Lamont. Slowly, Derek becomes disillusioned with the Aryan Brotherhood after he sees members selling drugs to members of other gangs. He realizes that they are gang members in name only and will do anything that benefits them, regardless of the principles they claim to live by. Derek continues to work with Lamont in the laundry. Lamont is persistent and eventually breaks through Derek's walls. He finally gets Derek to smile and laugh at his funny storytelling. The pair eventually develop a rapport from their shared love of basketball. Derek decides he's done with the Aryan Brotherhood and turns his back on them. They are not pleased. As punishment, he is restrained and beaten in the shower by the Aryan Brotherhood members. Derek further distances himself from the Aryan Brotherhood and spends the remainder of his time in prison alone, reading books that Sweeney sends him. Finally realizing the error of his ways, Derek leaves prison a changed man. He thanks Lamont for looking out for him. The next morning, Danny finishes his paper, which reflects on why he had adopted Nazi values and why they were deeply flawed. Derek walks Danny to school before his meeting with his parole officer. At school, Danny, as he readies to present his assignment paper, is ambushed and confronted by a young student named Little Henry, who has been assigned the task of killing Danny after a confrontation the previous day, and who shoots him dead in the toilet. Derek, sensing something is wrong, arrives at the school and cries and mourns for Danny. In a voiceover, Danny reads the final lines of his paper for Dr. Sweeney, stating, "Hate is baggage. Life's too short to be pissed off all the time. It's just not worth it." Thanks for watching. If you want to see more movies like this, hit the like and subscribe button. Leave a comment below. Tell me which movies you would like me to recap in the future.